Good morning from Chicago, everybody. It's Bruce Collins here from Cambium Networks. We're talking today about IIoT mining applications. I'll be giving you an overview of how Cambium views IIoT, and specifically as it relates to mining solutions. So if you have any questions during the session, go ahead and put them in the chat window. And also a reminder that I'll be recording the session, and you can find a recording of this or download or listen to it later on our community forum at community.cambiumnetworks.com. So a couple of options there to follow up. Also a reminder, and if I forget by the end, but we also have a nice mining solutions white paper or solutions brochure on our website. So if you go there, our newly redesigned and relaid out website has that brochure there for download. So let's jump into it. And again, you can keep this interactive if you'd like, and go ahead and put your questions in the webinar interface. So when we talk about industrial Internet of Things and Cambium networks, we're looking at a number of different applications. All of these really relate to mining. So we talk about SCADA, process control and monitoring. This is any kind of system telemetry, monitoring the conditions in a mine, monitoring the access to certain areas of the mines, and then certainly as we can actuate things as well as monitor or receive the readings from sensors. Video surveillance and security is a key aspect. Of course, security is important in any kind of mining operation. Leased line replacement. This comes into play when anytime I'm going to replace a SATCOMS link or a wired link that I'm paying a monthly fee to a telco operator. I can replace that by switching to a private network and eliminating that monthly operating expense. Distribution and automation we talked about with SCADA process control, and then the last item is really remote access. So whether I'm providing remote access to a camp, to a operation or a facility, I can provide that using our backhaul products, or alternatively, of course, we have our cnPilot Wi-Fi access products. So for those technicians or users, or even for entertainment purposes, you can provide Wi-Fi access into these remote areas for remote mining operations. And what kind of ties all these together, and what makes Cambium interested in these areas, is really the fact that these cover a wide geographic area. Mining applications are generally large-scale operations with lots of points of presence, and then security and reliability is important to access those networks, or access and get the data across the network reliably and securely. So we really look at the following vertical industries: electric utilities, oil and gas, rail, water, wastewater, stormwater management, and then intelligent transportation. And of course, what we're talking about today is the mining applications. Here's a real high-level schematic of a mining operation and kind of how it fits in with different Cambium products. So you can see everything from the actual mining site to providing access to telemetry information, providing control and process, providing video surveillance and security at that site. You'll see as you move up to the crew quarters, this can be useful for entertainment purposes. Oftentimes these crews are located in a remote area for extended periods of time, so they can reach access back to their families and friends at home, or provide access to different types of entertainment on the internet. Remote sites, again, this is traditional enterprise backhaul, so you can deliver large-scale capacity directly to these very remote operating sites. And then in all cases, you're tying all this capacity back to a central office and then moving it on to the transportation side of things. So we talk about video, remote office. I didn't mention before, but digital signage is important. When you're providing warnings or traffic control signaling, digital signage can be important, especially in these remote areas. And oftentimes the alternative is satellite communications. So being able to deliver updates to those digital signage using private broadband is an important cost savings. Leakage monitoring, any type of pipeline, whether it's water that's being used for the mining operations or any kind of process or product that you're pulling off the mines. Leakage monitoring, leakage detection, whether it's gas or fluid type of products. Sensors can be tied into your SCADA process control monitoring system. Disaster recovery, anytime you need to quickly reestablish communications after there's been a disaster, whether it's a natural disaster or man-made type of attack on a mine, you can get the communications capacity back online quickly. Short-term deployments, as you're doing exploratory work or moving into new areas, being able to provide large-scale broadband communications into these very remote areas under a very short term is certainly beneficial over a fiber connection, which would take months to deploy, or a satellite connection, which will take very costly on a monthly basis. So with a broadband connection, I can have hundreds of megabits per second deployed in a matter of a few days to wherever I need it throughout the operation. This slide kind of shows in words what I just showed on the previous slide. So I won't go into this in too much detail, other than to say that Cambium is involved with mining projects and solutions all over the world, everywhere from Australia, South America, throughout Latin America, throughout parts of Africa, and then in some cases in the Canada and Australia areas of North America. So lots of experience in this area, and especially if you tie the experience in with our oil and gas and petrochem, which has a lot of alignment to these types of applications, you'll certainly see a lot of connections between these different types of use cases. So when we look at the IIoT portfolio, we're really looking across a subset of the complete Cambium portfolio. This is sort of the individual sleeves of products that we focus on when we talk about industrial. Starting on the left there, we have our P2820, which is a licensed microwave product. This is useful for delivering multiple gigabits per second in a ring or point-to-point topology, so lots of capacity into remote areas. Then we have our sub-6 backhaul, sub-6 gigahertz backhaul. This is our PTP670, PTP450i. It's available in multiple bands and is available to deliver a few hundred megabits per second into different areas. So this is really good for those remote facilities where I'm delivering lots of capacity. Video surveillance can be well handled by our PMP450i. This is a point-to-multipoint solution. So think of it as a star topology where I have a series of access points. Each can connect up to perhaps 200 endpoints, and then each of those endpoints can be connected to a number of video cameras. So I can bring lots of video surveillance capability back to a central point. And of course, I can share that same infrastructure between video and other types of access requirements. And then we have our CN Pilot, which is our Wi-Fi access hotspot. The E500 is particularly well suited for outdoor rugged environments. It's IP67, and it provides an integrated omni antenna. So it's a nice small package that can be deployed in a very remote area and provides that Wi-Fi access to personnel and field technicians. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit more detail about our cnReach product. This is the N500. This is a SCADA process control and monitoring solution. It's available in 4 different bands. We'll talk about those in a bit more detail, but this is really well suited for connectivity to PLCs, RTUs, anything with a serial port that you're doing machine-to-machine communications, or an IP port where you're doing machine-to-machine communications. You can interconnect that back to your SCADA master or other types of telemetry and instrumentation. We tie all these different portfolios together in what we call the cnMaestro network management system, which kind of provides visibility into the operations of each of these products across the different product lines. And then, of course, LINKPlanner, which many of you are familiar with, is our planning tool for doing what-if scenarios and doing predictions of capacity and availability of links, regardless of where you're deploying this anywhere in the world. So at a high level, when we talk about IIoT, we're looking at how Cambium fits into this. We're really looking at the IIoT high-level model as these 4 phases. You've got data acquisition on the left. That's talking to sensors, and that's where you're going to be converting a physical parameter like a temperature or pressure into current or voltage, and then packetizing that and sending it over a network. Which brings us to the transport piece, which is delivering that traffic over long distances securely and reliably, bringing it into a cloud or server for publishing that information, normalizing and publishing, and then ultimately reaching at analysis and decision making, whether that's through a human interaction with the server, with the SCADA master, or whether it's artificial intelligence or machine learning. That's where that analysis happens. So oftentimes that happens up in the cloud, so it can be associated up with our cnMaestro. And then what we really focus on at Cambium, though, is this transport layer. And what you'll see when you look at that, the previous pages about what our products fit, we're really doing all different types of transport, and we're not really tied to one particular model. So we can support broadband data, unlicensed, so sub 6 gigahertz. We have licensed microwave solutions, as I mentioned, Wi-Fi, and then of course what we'll be talking about a bit more today is the ability to do SCADA process control in a narrowband network. So one last piece, when you're looking and talking to an operation and mining operation, you want to understand how does the communications infrastructure fit in with that industrial organization's goals. So we're really looking to align to one of these 5 high-level initiatives. I'll take the first one last, but the second and third one are really focused on traditional return on investment. I want to reduce the outage duration of an operation. I want to increase the availability of services. I want to reduce the operating cost. So if there's a truck roll required, I want to make sure that that truck roll is only done when necessary, and when they do go out to a site, they have all the information and tools they need to resolve the problem. So any kind of information that the network can provide to reduce those truck rolls is important. Reducing security risk, this is growing in importance all the time. We certainly see this with our video surveillance services and support. And this really relates to both cybersecurity and as well as physical security. So providing and controlling access to certain facilities, both physically and virtually. And then personnel safety is, of course, important in mining. So anything that we can do to enforce standards on standards and compliance to rules and regulations related to security, provide video surveillance to understand that there's any threats to our personnel. So that becomes very important as well. And then last, I said I would take the first one last. That's really as the IIoT initiatives take off, and you see this every day in the press, the ability to collect more information from more sensors and do it more often is becoming more and more important, especially as we're feeding these machine learning algorithms, introducing artificial intelligence. The analysts are looking for more data, and they're looking for deeper dive data into the operations. So all of that requires more capacity, more locations requiring data, and just a general upgrade and upkeep of the networking infrastructure. So I'll spend a few minutes talk a little bit about our cnReach platform. It's our newest product in the portfolio, introduced earlier this year. Some of the key aspects of the cnReach platform, it's just really useful for SCADA process control and monitoring. We look at deployment flexibility. This is the ability to deploy that same module that you see on the right in both point-to-point, point-to-multipoint, and relay topologies. It has an optional general purpose I/O built in, so you can do direct connections to analog or digital services. We have, I mentioned before, a variety of different frequencies available. I'll talk about those in a bit. And then there's a dual radio option, which I'll also mention later. The reliability, we test every one of these units 100% over temperature. So every unit goes through a negative 40 C to plus 85 C ramp in our factory. And while we're ramping through that temperature, it's continuously connected to another radio. So we're not just baking the radio, but we're actually testing it, making sure that it operates over all those temperatures. So both cold start, hot start, and calibration over those full temperatures. We have HAZLOC ratings, which is important for hazardous locations, so it can be put into an intrinsically safe environment. So that's it can be important depending on the mining operation or application. Low power consumption. I mentioned those digital signage applications or areas where the devices are located very remotely. This is the ability to run these on just a few watts of power is very important for providing support for those situations where you're doing solar panels or battery packs to power these devices. And then scalability, much like the rest of the portfolio, when we talk about scaling, Cambium is very focused on how do we get the most use and utilization out of the limited spectrum that's available. And in this case, it's just as important, or if not more important, with cnReach, where we're talking about very narrow channels, being able to reuse that spectrum and use it most efficiently. So to that end, we support access point synchronization in the TDD air interface on this radio. We also support adaptive modulation, so the radios will adapt to conditions and change their speed as the conditions change to get the best performance possible at any given time. Of course, security is built in, encryption is included, as well as the ability to have secure management interfaces like HTTPS or SNMP version 3, so some of the secure parameters or services. And then I've got a couple slides later on that show cnMaestro and LINKPlanner as far as how we manage this device. Here's a small snapshot of a cnReach inside a NEMA enclosure. So this is a typical installation or deployment. What you'll see on the right there is an RTU. So this is a remote terminal unit, and you'll see a few blue wires connected in there. That is different sensor points that can be wired into this panel. On the left is a 12-volt DC power supply. cnReach can use anywhere from 10 volts to 32 volts DC power. And there in the middle is the blue box is the cnReach radio. So typically what you'll see in a cabinet like this is an RTU or a logic controller. I see a power source and then a radio with the radio connecting up through an antenna out the top of the cabinet going up to either a Yagi or an Omni antenna configuration. Here's another example I like to show because it's really showing the remote capabilities of this product. This is a customer that has deployed cnReach in a very remote area up in the northwest part of Canada, just on this side of the border from Alaska. On the and you can see it's only reachable by helicopter and is solar panel backed up. So a very remote area, and this is delivering radio over IP services. So this was putting a small low capacity voice channel into a very remote area. So again, another application that could be suitable or would be suitable in a mining operation. Here's another example. This is actually a rail application. This is showing the monitoring of sensors on a track side. So again, as it relates to transporting out of a mine, being able to run a relay configuration with hop to hop along that track side to do both monitoring of the sensors and actuating of the sensors is important. And the back-to-back repeater mode allows you to string a large number of these devices. You can see there are 5 in a series on here without losing capacity, because we're doing a back-to-back repeater mode that utilizes the dual radio and eliminates the loss in capacity at each node. And that's kind of best illustrated in this picture here. With cnReach radio, you can deploy a number of different topologies. You've got a point-to-point configuration up in the upper left. It's the simplest approach. Then you also have a multi-point application where you see the AP talking to a number of endpoints. Typically, this can be on a SCADA solution. This can be 50 to 70 endpoints. And then you'll see a couple different repeater possibilities there. You'll see a store and forward repeater. This is a true store and forward, so I'm actually going to listen for a packet, then turn around from the left side, and then I'm going to turn around and transmit it on the right side. So that's a traditional store and forward. And the downside of that is that because I'm spending half my time talking in the left-bound direction and half talking in the right-bound direction, I'm going to lose half the capacity. We also support what's called a back-to-back repeater. It's a dual radio. And in that mode, one radio can be talking in the left direction or westbound direction, and the other radio can be talking in the east or right-bound direction simultaneously. And we have proven lab test results and field deployments showing up to 5 hops of this back-to-back repeater, and you don't lose capacity as you go through these. You get a little bit of latency impact, but the capacity remains consistent throughout the string of repeater nodes. So quite useful for those trackside or long-range connections. And of course, I can drop data off at each of those repeater nodes as well. So it's that relay point can act as both a relay as well as a terminating some of the data. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the radios. I won't go into the specs, but all these spec sheets are available on our website. We do have a 900 megahertz. This product is available or is delivered with both licensed MAS capability as well as ISM unlicensed. So I can mix licensed and unlicensed communications within the same module. We also offer 450 megahertz. This product is available pretty much globally. We have product available here in the US with our FCC validation. We have ETSI product. We will have an EU version of this product available and shipping by the end of this year. So we're in initial lab testing, moving into beta testing on that EU capability. So you can watch for that coming quite soon. Again, the channel sizes on the licensed only products are very narrow. So keep in mind, these are 12.5 and 25 kilohertz channels, delivering up to about 70 kilobits per second with high modulation capability on the radio. And then we just most recently introduced our 220 megahertz radio. This is available in a number of different bands. You can see the different regulations that apply, but in the big picture, it covers 217 to 222, and there are a number of different vehicles to access that spectrum. We did a webinar last week with a couple of our partners, Choctaw Telecom and Select Spectrum, that provide access to these license keys. You can go in and acquire the license, so it's an exclusive access to those frequencies. That webinar is recorded and posted up on our website if you want to have a listen to what those gentlemen had to say. The other item in here is called an I/O expander. This is suitable for the situation where I have broadband connectivity out to a location, but I want to add some serial ports or some additional general purpose I/O. So in this case, I'm taking a cnReach radio with a cnReach module with no radios in it and applying it to the end of a broadband link. So I can connect one of the Ethernet ports to the Ethernet port on a subscriber module in a PNP 450i system, for example. And then I've now broken out to that. I still keep the Ethernet port with the second port on the cnReach I/O expander. And then I have 2 serial ports and general purpose I/O. So lots of connectivity that I can bring out to that remote area. And it kind of summarized here, but each module has 2 Ethernet ports, 2 serial ports supporting both 232 as well as bus-based serials, 422 and 485. You can fit these with a single or dual radio. And on that green connector in the picture, you'll see that's the optional I/O capability. So there you can have analog and digital input and output signals. So effectively, what can you connect? Anything with a serial port, anything with a IP port, anything with a analog or digital output. So you have lots of flexibility in how you connect this cnReach device. Here's just going right down to the details here, but this is a digital I/O representative schematic, and it gives you a sense of one of the applications many of our customers have used, which is I just want to tie in some dry contact switches, maybe the cabinet door switch or a pressure switch. I want to know when a pump turns on or off. I can tie that switch directly into one of the pins on the I/O port, that green connector on the radio, and now I can read that with a Modbus pull. So any kind of Modbus-based SCADA master can come in and query that pin and understand if that door has been left open, if it's been opened or closed, whether a pump has been activated or not. And you can do things like counting the number of operations. So if I want to know how many times a pump has gone on and gone off in a certain period of time, I can keep track of that as well. So lots of different capabilities and options with that I/O. We also offer a set of very rugged and reliable and high-performance Yagi and Omni antennas. So you'll see this and more information on our website about these as well. These are available in different bands and different gains. And then we also offer turnkey installation kits with these. So if you want to go in and set up one of those cabinets I showed in an earlier slide, this kit includes the drop cable, includes grounding, weatherproofing, surge suppressor, and all the connectors and jumpers you need to do a complete professional install. So you have that as an option. LINKPlanner, again, there's a lot more information and webinars available on our forum about LINKPlanner. But in a nutshell, this product allows you to pick any 2 points on the Earth, determine what products are available to connect those 2 points, and then do a series of what-if assessments to figure out how do I optimize the capacity and the availability of that link. So if I know I need a certain amount of capacity for a process control, I can select the correct radio, select the right antenna, put the antenna at the right height on the mast, and then even in case of license, figure out what size license channel I need to complete the mission for that particular location. And then you can output that LINKPlanner result into a nice proposal report for the making a proposal and installation report for the installer. So again, a real nice tool, and the best part about it is you can go to our website today, download it, and get access to that product today. cnMaestro is our network management system. This is can be loaded up as either a cloud-based system or a on-premises access. And you can see here, this is managing cnReach, but with cnMaestro, you can manage a number of our different platforms, including the cnPilot, ePMP, our PMP products, and coming soon, the PTP products. But what you can see there in the middle is a little device health widget. I can tell what's the status of the device, if there's any alarms happening. I can view the performance. And you can also do some things like change the password remotely. So if I want to go in and remotely set all the passwords of all my cnReach radios, I can do that in an automated fashion using cnMaestro. Another thing that's important to remember about Cambium is we do provide support at multiple levels. We have a global sales team consisting of regional sales managers and regional technical managers that are very skilled and lots of expertise in our products and how to apply them in different situations. We have a team inside that you can call and ask questions and get insight into the products. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out and really sort of highlight, of course, we have our support services and with Cambium Care options, so you can kind of pursue that as well. But the other thing I want to really highlight is the community forum. We provide that at community.cambiumnetworks.com. And this is really a nice resource to reach out to many of the engineers on the team, many of the product line managers. We're all on this forum on a regular basis. So if you have a question that's quite obscure, maybe it doesn't quite fit into a user guide, or it's a sort of you think it's a unique situation that you have, go ahead and fire that question into the community forum, and somebody's likely to jump on there and answer, whether it's, again, one of our development engineers, one of the product line managers, or even one of your one of the peers with another operating company. So with that, it's kind of a quick overview of Cambium's industrial IoT portfolio, how it applies to mining applications, and also a couple of resources you can go check out. Again, have a look at our mining solutions brochure. Also, you can have a look at the community forum to learn more about how that's used. So if you have any questions, go ahead and fire them in there. Again, this session has been recorded. It will be on our community forum. You'll also be able to get a copy of the slides at that location. So you'll be able to get a set of the presentation that we used as well today. So if you want to share that information with your colleagues or with some of your customers as well, that would be perfect. So again, thanks everybody for joining on a Tuesday morning here in Chicago, and we'll talk to you another time down the road. Thanks. Bye.